This is a recruiting webinar for playing at the college level. And this is for students grades 6 to 12. Presentation. This is by Kevin Danahy. A little bit about myself. Going back to high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. I played soccer, golf, and I swam. I was a 2-sport athlete in college. Played soccer, cross-country, track and field. And then after graduating, I was a professional duathlete. I got into coaching. I've been coaching for over 20 years at the high school, college, and I have my own business. And I'm currently a parent of 2 kids at SAS that are in the recruiting process currently. So, recruiting roadmap. Most kids will start this process anywhere from 6th to 10th grade. And that is just really beginning of the club and travel. But any kid that wants to get involved and possibly playing at the next level needs to have 4 characteristics. They have to have the physical ability, they have to have the desire, the work ethic, and the resources. And we'll touch on this a little later, but the best way to really identify that would be from an honest evaluation from a coach, mentor. But we are going to start at marketing yourself, promoting yourself for the recruiting process. So what does that entail? That is having an online presence. That's creating videos, profile, sending emails, phone calls, contacting coaches. You're trying to get a coach's interest. Create content for coaches to evaluate your ability. So promote and marketing yourself. I'd recommend a few websites. First, the NCSA college recruiting website and the Sports Recruits. These are both general websites. You can create an account and have a free profile, which you can use as your main profile, reaching out to coaches where all your information is stored, videos are stored. If you want more detailed services from the website as far as highlight videos and some guidance, then that's a fee service base where you'll have to pay monthly or annually. If you get into more specific websites, SkillFit is just for soccer, and that is a pay-based website service. And also IWLCA, which is girls lacrosse, also fee-based, and that normally is involved in any type of travel. The travel team, the fees for that are included in having this website. We'll touch on Niche. That is a great resource as far as doing research for schools. So this is the main page for Sports Recruits. Again, this is mainly a fee-based if you want guidance, but you can set up profiles. NCSA also, you can set up a free profile, but anything in more detail you'll have to pay for. It's an example of a free account. It keeps track of your views, your follows, searches. You can send emails through this account if you have a fee-based service, but you can still do college searches. That's a great feature you can have still with the free-based. You can use maps. You can use a lot of different factors into kind of figuring out what schools are offered as far as Division 1, 2, 3, and what areas. So when you start putting your list together for schools, there's different criteria you can put in, and it can give you a list of schools to look through. IWLCA, great website. They really keep track of who contacts you. SkillFit, this is a fee-based. They do a good job of kind of walking you through the process. You have someone to kind of help you, guide you. We'll create videos for you. Okay, back to the recruiting roadmap. So we've touched a little bit on promoting. We'll get into creating highlight videos next. So marketing yourself with highlight videos is a great example. I'll actually show you an example here. So this is a highlight video. You can see the name, position, weight. I'll stop this for a second. I would put in kind of a resume of who you are, your travel schedule, just basic information about you. That's only about 2 to 3 seconds where a coach can stop it like this and review it. And then when he wants to continue on with his evaluation of you, he just hits play and goes back to the highlights. So creating your highlight reel, make sure you identify who you are. See up here I have name and number, school. I try to make sure that the play is stopped and an arrow is put onto the player you're identifying, and information on what's happening in the play, what they should be looking for. So in the highlight videos, again, contact information. You want to start with your best videos first. A lot of coaches will only go through about 20 to 30 seconds of a highlight video to get a sense of the quality of player. So they're not going to get through the entire video. They might do that if they get into an in-depth evaluation of you later on in the recruiting process, but normally they're just going to get a quick glimpse of you. So make sure you put all of your best stuff first. And then if you have a list of 10 highlight videos or 10 highlight clips, you're going to go from best to worst when you make your highlight tape. Try to put some flair, something to stand out, be memorable. So once you have the video, you're going to save that to your computer. And then from there, you're going to upload it to YouTube. And we'll touch on that in a second. So let's talk a little bit about content video. Content video is something you can send a coach that is short. It's only about 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And it's not really play-based. It's more how you move, how strong are you, factors like vertical jump, broad jump, 40-yard dash, footwork drills, sports drills. That's the kind of stuff that you want to send. And this is to create content to keep a coach engaged and help them evaluate you on what type of player you have the potential to be. Game tape video, that's something that you want to have access to for a coach. Best way to do that is pick a game that you've played the best in, you feel, maybe a coach would recommend for you, or a very important game such as a state championship game or a conference championship game. Make sure it's just one game. The coaches that are evaluating you in this, that will watch this, they're looking for how you move off the ball, how you react to plays. Do you hustle back? Do you get down after you have a bad play? So make sure that the games that you pick, you're positive, and it's something that the coach can see you're going to be a value to the team. I use Clipchamp. It's just on my desktop. It's an editing tool where I can create videos. It's pretty simple. All I do is import my media. And it comes over on this side. I can put logos in there. I can put text in there, music. And all I do is just drag it over. And I can arrange it in any order I want. Once you start playing around with this, you'll be an expert with this in, maybe 1 or 2 videos. It's pretty simple. So the to-do list with YouTube. Create a channel. Pretty simple. You need an account. And then once you save things to your computer, you're gonna upload them all over to your YouTube account. That way it's in a cloud and you can send those links to any coach you want, any website you want, and it's not going to be lost. So here's kind of the content. Nice thing about YouTube, I think, is when you create it, you can make it public where it goes out to anybody. If anybody searches for your content, the wording you have in it, this is going to pop up. They can find it. You can unlist it where it's not listed if people are looking for it. And then you can also make it private where only specific people can view it. So heading back to our roadmap, we're going to touch a little bit on research and creating a list. So now that we've kind of dived a little deeper into the recruiting process, what schools are we going to go to? Well, we've got to figure out where we want to be, what type of program we want to be at. I think this is when Niche is a great tool. So you can type in your university, anything you're kind of thinking about. Say we put in MIT. Nice thing about this tool is it will pop up and give you a report card, an overall grade, and it'll show you what they excel in and what they kind of could be a little better at. But it gives you a nice snapshot of the total package of the school. It goes on to give you information such as what the average student will make after graduation rate. It'll give you just information as far as one-word phrases to best describe the school to give you kind of an idea of the students or maybe the faculty. Gives you information where you can plug in your GPA, your SAT or ACT, and it will put you in a graph and you'll have an idea of where you are as far as individuals that have applied and gotten in or gotten rejected. So it's hard to see here, but all the reds are rejected, the blues were considered, and there's a few green in here, but they're primarily in this area. So if you're trying to get into MIT, we're saying you need above a 3.5 and we need above a 1400. That will put you in consideration to get accepted. So it gives you an idea if you can get into the school. Also gives you an idea of what you will pay if it's in-state, out-of-state. It gives you an average total aid, so it gives you the net price that most students will pay. Also gives you information as far as acceptance rate, how many kids actually get in that apply, and it gives you the deadlines for applications. So all useful information when looking at schools. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about evaluation. So very important is getting an honest evaluation about what are the likelihood that you can play at the next level. So we can talk about it academically and athletically. Athletically is coach or recruiting coordinator that's able to evaluate your play. So if you're talking about a coach, they see you at practice, they see you in games, they've been working with you for quite some time. They're going to have an idea if you can play at the next level, and they should be honest with you. A recruiting coordinator is going to just be viewing videos and highlights. So won't know you so much as your coach does, but can still give you an honest evaluation. Academically, you're going to be working with your parents, a counselor, and that's just to match you the most realistic schools based off of your grades. And then, so now we're making lists. So once we kind of have an idea of what schools we can get into, where we want to go, we create lists and we rank them based off of where we want to play, where we think we can play, and what academic schools match with what we can get into. And this list is going to change a lot based off of how much interest you're getting from coaches, based off just a change in possibly visiting a school and realizing you don't like it, or visiting a school and realizing you love it. Contact tracking emails. This is an important one. This will help streamline this process dramatically. But before we get into that, let me ask a question, just to put this into perspective. So how many emails do you think a college coach receives each week? So this is a competitive Division I program, competitive Division III program. Might surprise you here. So they're receiving over 1,000 emails a week from high school prospects. So just think about that for a second, just quick math. So if one coach is in an office 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, let's say he's working 8 hours in that day. So 200 emails he can get done in 5 days. That's 1,000. He's working 8 hours. That's 480 minutes. So he's got to spend about 2 minutes and 24 seconds on each email over that time spot. That's all he would do from when he walked in the office until he left, would just go through emails, go through emails, go through emails. So that's not very realistic considering the average highlight video is over 2 hours and 30 seconds. Average highlight video, probably somewhere around 3:30 to 4 minutes. It's in that 2.5 to 5 minute length range. So what most coaches will do is skip through a lot of emails unless something catches their eye. So what you need to do for them to really catch their eye is a few key points. One, keep the email short, very short, to the point. Only include one video link at a time, especially in these early emails. If an email is not opened, send it again. If it's not opened a week later, 2 weeks later, send it again. You don't know if the coach was out of the office. You don't know if he just was inundated with emails and couldn't get to it. Be relentless when you're trying to contact coaches if no one is getting back to you or even opening your emails. If you're able to include pictures, try to make it as personable as you can. So talk a little bit about the subject. So when you are writing to a coach, you should put it kind of in this format where you have a name, graduation year, position, GPA, team you play for, and some type of achievement. So an example of that would be if your name was John Smith, graduating 2028, you're a midfielder, your GPA cumulative is 3.9. You play for DFA, and let's just say you were first team All-State in 2024. That would be your subject matter, and then you would have a short email to follow that. Most critical information to optimize results. So who's looking at your emails and your profiles? Is it like a one and done, or are they getting multiple views? So target your attention towards the multiple views. When you get coaches, you might send one email, they open it up, they look at one link, and then you send another email, nothing, another email, nothing, another email, nothing. At a point, if you have them on your list, what's most likely going to happen is they took a look at your email and there was something in that email that they didn't like or they didn't think you could play at the level. And every time they see that subject matter now, they just push it to the side and they're looking for other recruits. Now, again, I do say be relentless because it might be 3 or 4 times before they open another one. So I'm just saying don't put them high on your list. Don't go to a prospect camp if they're not getting back to you. Still send the emails if you want to, but just realize that if they're not getting back to you and they're not opening your emails after they've already opened it once, that there's probably not an interest level. And you also have to take into consideration the outside factors, such as are they out of season? And is the coach that they currently had stepping down and a new coach is coming on and they're in kind of a transition phase and the emails really aren't going to anybody? So just take into consideration why someone may not be getting back to you. Email tracking. So you can do this on your own. Boomerang email is something that you can look into. HubSpot is another, and Google Workspace. You can set up email accounts through all of these, and what'll happen is when you send an email, you'll know when it was opened and what they clicked. So here's an example. So this is with SkillFit. So this is part of a profile that is paid for. So we send emails through here. So this email we got sent, it was to Florida Southern College. There were 3 coaches. So here's an example of the subject, how you want to kind of word it. So this email was opened 9 times and 7 links were clicked. So you can say 9 times, you had 3 coaches. So each coach opened this 3 times. And you can say each coach opened 2 links. So that's a pretty good hit. Oh, sorry about that. So if we send another email and we're getting similar results, we might want to push it and try to get a call, try to set up maybe a visit to school. That's kind of how I would tackle sending emails. Once you kind of get them on the hook and they're still looking, try to get a little more attention from them. So a little bit back to the roadmap now. Prospect camps, ID camps, clinics, good and bad here. So pros of prospect camps. Allows you to get time in front of a specific coach. So if you have, let's say, a top 5 list and there's a prospect camp that you go to, that's your number 1 school, you're getting in front of all the coaches at that school. So that's a good thing. You're getting to do a tour of that school to see if you like it or not. That's a great thing. Going to multiple prospect camps hosted by a single program really shows interest in that program in school. And schools are looking for kids that are interested. There are kids that are in the recruiting process and the coach asks, how many interested in any of their schools, and you rattle off 10 schools and you've been to 7 ID camps and you have interest in going to Rhode Island and this school's in Florida. They're not going to have as much focus on you because they don't think that you're serious about it. Also, going to prospect camps allows you to build relationships with the current coaches. So all good. Some of the cons, some of the things that are negative, you must perform well when you go to these camps. So it puts a little added pressure on some of these players. Some of these are money grabs where there's just way too many kids to really get a full evaluation. And it's just a way for the school's program, the athletic program, to make some money for their budget for the year. So just be aware of that. You're looking for prospect camps where they have 30 or less kids would be ideal. These prospect camps, you might also get put in some positions just because they're trying to fill time and they're trying to fill a position that they might run out of defenders and you're not a defender. So you're getting looked at in a position that you normally don't play. So just some of the cons. Number 1 rule, I would say, if you do decide to go to a prospect camp, make sure that you're in contact with the coach. If you just walk straight into a prospect camp, you sign up, you show up, no one knows who you are, you're not going to get that much attention, that much looks, unless you are the best player on the field. So make sure, if you do a prospect camp, contact the coach, make sure you're getting a return from the coach, just making sure that they know you're coming. That way you'll know that you'll get a real look when you do go. I'll give you some examples. So looking at a bigger school, this is from our experience. We went to the University of Denver. It was a 2-day camp. There were 24 schools represented, a lot of schools, and there were 48 coaches from schools all over the West. It was a great way to see a lot of schools. There's a lot of schools around Denver, so we took that opportunity to kind of just check out the entire area. We visited a lot of schools that possibly could play out and possibly just go to school there. But we didn't get a lot of individual attention. There were schools that would reach out that we had no interest whatsoever. So it's kind of hit or miss. It's a great way to use that camp as a way to improve your skills for the high school season. But you're not going to get a lot of individual attention. Looking at a different example, looking at a smaller school. So Barry is a school in northern Atlanta, or outside Atlanta, northern Georgia. We went, Barry was the only school there. It was just the head coach, the assistant coach. There were 24 players. It was a 1-day camp. And you got an honest look. There's just not that many kids there. The head coach is looking at you, assistant coach is looking at you. So if you know that, for example, Barry is a top 5, you're in contact with the coaches, they want you to come out, they've seen your highlight videos, it's a great way to get in front of a coach in just a small setting like that where you know you're going to be getting looked at by the individuals making decisions. Okay, back to our recruiting roadmap again. So researching schools, programs, that is going to be a constant thing. You're going to do that throughout this process. One thing I highly recommend is diving into the roster. You might look at a school and believe you can play there, and all of a sudden you notice, wow, there's 14 international players on this roster. How many transfers have come in? How many Major League Next kids are on the roster? What's the graduating class? What positions do they need in your class? Like, all of these will really dictate how many kids they're looking for. So if the answer is there's not a lot of positions open at that school when you're coming into your class, you might not want to invest much time into really pursuing playing there, because the odds, if there's only one spot, you might want to use that time, energy, money in other schools that you may have an interest in. Also recommend diving in and doing some homework on the coaches. Where's their hometown? What clubs did they play for growing up? What's their background? Where do they play in college? Or did they coach anywhere else? What are their preferences when they are recruiting players? You might have a little common ground in something, like, let's say your father went to the same school and they have a friend that actually they know each other. You could make some phone calls and kind of help the process of the introduction. It goes a long way when they know who you are before you're coming in, and they have some idea of how you can play and who you are. Some other examples that I think will help you understand the current landscapes of their recruiting. This is for soccer. So let's look at Duquesne. So we've looked at Duquesne. Duquesne's roster is 26. For the most part now, schools Division I will be holding 28 on their roster. So you figure 26, I believe they had 7 seniors leaving, and they had 2 spots. So that made 9 spots that they had for the 2025 class. On the roster, they currently had 6 international players. So for Division I, that's not a ton. I mean, 1.5 per class isn't a lot of international students. But all of a sudden, they had 7 transfers come in from other Division I, Division II schools. So now they only have 2 spots. So going into pretty much right around January of 25, the 9 spots turned into 2 very quickly. And it was because of transfer players. You have individuals at more competitive Division I programs that aren't getting playing time, that are getting frustrated, and they decide to come to another school. Another example of that in Division III setting is Ithaca. So we were going through the recruiting process there. We had been in contact with the coach, went to one camp, ID camp, and they liked him. They wanted him to come back for their final decision. When we did that process, they had a roster of 32. The 2025 class had 11 spots. They had no international players, so that was good. First prospect camp was around February. The final decision was in August. So when we showed up in August, they had 9 transfers come in from other schools. They had no internationals come in, but that 11 spots now turned into 2. They needed 1 striker and they needed 1 defender. So really, there's 1 spot. So just frustrating for kids that are trying to come in when the transfer portal is so easy for kids to transfer in and out. Looking as an example at Emory-Riddle, Division II in Florida, right outside Daytona Beach. They had a roster size of 28. They had 12 spots. They had 12 seniors leaving. But the roster had currently 19 international players. So they only had 9 U.S.-based players on the team. All the rest were foreigners. So what that tells you is that coach primarily recruits internationally. So the start of 2025, they had 4 transfers, and they had an additional 6 international players, which gave them only 2 spots. So again, it fills up very fast when you talk about transfers and internationals. You're getting kids that are older, have more experience playing and most coaches would rather have those kids than a freshman coming in out of high school. Another example to consider would be Division. Well, this is just a Division I school, UPenn, right outside Philadelphia. They had a roster size of 33. Looking at the roster, they had 7 spots, so they had 7 seniors graduating. But looking at the roster, all of the kids pretty much on the roster were Major League Next or NCNL League kids. So that's a coach that he gets pretty much all his players from those leagues. He goes to all of those tournaments, and he rarely will take another kid from outside of those leagues. And also, so Division I's can be going to 28 spots, so they're 5 over. So they're 7 spots, but they're 5 over, so they got to make 5 cuts. So now there's only 2 spots. Well, they had 1 transfer player come in and 1 international. So actually, there's 0 spots left start of 2025. So how about, let's look at some local options. Delaware. All right, you think Delaware, there's more options coming available. So you've got 2 Division I, you've got Del State, and you've got Delaware. Delaware is pretty competitive in all their Division I sports. I would say Del State is not very competitive in many of them. Division II, you have Wilmington College, or sorry, used to be Wilmington University now, and Goldie Beacom. Just options. The Division I options here are some of the sports that each one has to offer. Our Division II options, Goldie Beacom and Wilmington University, what they have to offer. And then also another option would be Del Tech. So nice thing about Del Tech, let's just say you wanted, coming out of high school, you want to continue your athletic career, but you want to also go to a good academic school, say Delaware. You don't think you can play at Delaware. One thing you could do, if any of these sports is kind of your sport, you can do the seed program where you go and play at Del Tech. You do 1 year there at Del Tech, and your tuition is free, and then you're able to transfer into Delaware and finish your degree. So just a good option, something to consider. All right, heading back to the roadmap. So main takeaways here. Talk about marketing yourself, promoting yourself, having a web presence. Highlight videos, very important. Content videos, very important. And constantly updating it, making sure it's correct, making sure your travel schedule is on there. Research, very important. Keeping your list active where you might change your mind, move things around. I know that list for my kids changed every month. But researching where you want to be, not only athletically, but academically. Getting an honest evaluation. What level can you play at, and really not wasting time. If you're not a Division I player, but you still want to play, Division II or Division III are still good options, and try to find an academic school that matches where you would like to go. Contacting coaches, be relentless. Contact coaches and continue to send emails and content videos and highlight videos. Ask for feedback. Be relentless, because like I said, coaches get so many emails. If you can get on a coach's cell phone and you're able to text him, use that and try to get conversations going and really try to get to know the individuals that are recruiting. Prospect camps, there's good and bad. Be aware of the money grabs, but try to get in front of the correct coaches that are in communications with you. Continue to research and contact. Lists will continually change. It's part of the process. I told my kids the journey will have many ups and downs, but in the end, you're going to have to enjoy the ride, because this only happens once. And I hope you have a good experience. If you have any questions about any of this, feel free to reach out. My email's right here. And I hope this has been helpful. Have a great evening.